Hi, I'm Karen Moore, co-author of the Latin Alive series published by Classical Academic Press. Latin Alive Book 1 is our first of a 3-book Latin series for upper school students. We designed it with 3 guiding goals in mind. First, we wanted to ensure that it embodied the classical and the creative. Second, we wanted to ensure that the text showed students the relevance and purpose of Latin. And third, we wanted to ensure that the text was clear, incremental, and easy to use. Our goal was to make this a creative, engaging book. We spent a good deal of time designing the book so that it would be appealing to upper school students without becoming distracting and scattered. For example, we incorporated a state seal and accompanying Latin motto into each chapter that engages students and teaches them a bit about the founding of various states in the country. Chapters also provide supplemental activities to encourage continued learning in sections such as Latin and Science, Culture Corner, Derivative Detective, and even some game ideas. Latin Alive does seek to bring Latin alive to students. We accomplish this by teaching the language in the context of the culture and history in which the language thrived. Throughout the text, there are Latin readings inspired by Livy's history of the Roman Republic, tales of great events, and even greater heroes. The text also explores how these same events and persons have shaped our culture today. English derivatives from Latin roots are learned along with each vocabulary list, greatly enhancing the student's vocabulary. Throughout the text, there are maps, descriptions of Roman culture, and photos of statues, buildings, artifacts, all these things from ancient Rome. We are grateful to have historian Christopher Schlecht of New St. Andrews College provide several pithy readings on the history of the Roman Republic that give additional context and relevance to the student's study of Latin. My co-author, Gaylan DuBose, and I have well over 50 years of Latin teaching experience between us. I was thrilled to work with Gaylan, a true master of his craft and one of my mentors. Together, we have worked hard to present the grammar in the text incrementally, systematically, and clearly. We always illustrate the use of grammar with abundant examples, then introduce a chapter reading based on the writings of Livy in his history of the Roman Republic. These feature the same grammatical concepts taught in a given chapter. The vocabulary for each chapter is also featured in these chapter readings for practice and reinforcement. Any new vocabulary in a reading is presented in an accompanying glossary, helping students translate Latin passages while learning new vocabulary. The Latin Alive text is supported by a complete teacher's edition of the text that contains teaching tips throughout the text, along with all of the exercise answers and translations of all Latin texts and readings. It also contains unit tests and answer keys for those tests. For those of you new to teaching Latin, you can also bring me into your house or classroom by means of an instructional DVD in which I teach through every lesson in the text, 16 hours of instruction in all. It is my hope through the DVDs to come alongside as you venture forth to teach Latin to your students. Latin Alive contains 36 weekly chapters, 29 content chapters, and 7 review chapters. The text covers all 5 noun declensions, all verb conjugations, and introduces irregular verbs, various pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, and prepositions. This book starts the beginning of your grammar studies, so it works well for either a student beginning his or her Latin studies or as a more mature book for students who have already studied some Latin previously. Have you heard of the National Latin Exam? Over 100,000 students in countries across the world take one level of this test or another each year. The study of Latin Alive also helps students to prepare for this test, teaching them sufficient amounts of Latin grammar and Roman culture to enable students to do well on the National Latin Exam. This book also helps students prepare for other exams such as the Advanced Placement Exam or the S.A.T subject tests. Students studying with Latin Alive also review their vocabulary online by visiting our student support site at headventureland.com, where they can play Latin Alive versions for Flash Dash and even compete against other Latin Alive students for high scores. Students will also find bilingual videos and ebooks in Latin and English at Headventureland. You can also find additional teaching tips, activities, lesson plans, and a whole smorgasbord of Latin stuff on my blog at latinaliveonline.com. Samples of Latin Alive, the text, and the instructional DVD are available right here on our website. So I encourage you to explore Enjoy and see why this text truly brings Latin alive.